You don't own the land beneath your feet. You don't control the infrastructure keeping your lights on. You didn't set the price of your rent, your insulin, your degree, or your debt. But every month, without fail, you still pay. Not to a lord in a castle, to a system that decides who gets access before opportunity ever arrives. And that should make you stop and ask something uncomfortable. At what point does a modern economy stop being modern and start behaving like feudalism again? Welcome to the Invisible Chains. Let's start where everyone starts, with the word itself, feudalism. Say it out loud and a specific image appears almost automatically. Armor, castles, kings on thrones, peasants with muddy boots, tied to the soil, going nowhere. It feels ancient, primitive, a relic safely buried by progress. And that's exactly why it's so easy to miss when it returns. Because feudalism was never really about swords or crowns. Strip away the pageantry and ask what it actually was. It was a system built on control of productive assets. In medieval Europe, land was everything. Food, shelter, protection, survival itself. Control the land and you controlled life. Didn't own it? Your options collapsed, regardless of how hard you worked. Here's the part that stings. Peasants weren't poor because they were lazy. They were constrained because they didn't own what mattered. So they made arrangements. Labor in exchange for access. Loyalty in exchange for protection. Rent in exchange for the right to survive. This wasn't chaos, it was order. Feudalism worked because it minimized uncertainty. Everyone knew their place. Mobility was rare. Ownership was concentrated. And stability, that cold, quiet stability, mattered more than freedom. That's the part modern textbooks leave out. Feudalism didn't collapse because it was inefficient. It was disrupted because something else became more powerful than land. That something was capital. Industrialization shattered the monopoly land held over survival. Factories replaced fields, cities replaced manors, wages replaced obligations. And for the first time in human history, people could earn income without owning the underlying asset. This was the promise. You don't need land, you need skills. You don't need inheritance, you need labor. You don't need permission, you need a job. For a moment, it worked. The 19th and 20th centuries produced something historically rare. A large middle class with rising wages, expanding ownership, genuine upward mobility. Homes became attainable. Savings mattered. Labor had real leverage. And people absorbed the lesson so deeply they mistook it for a law of nature. They assumed it was permanent. It wasn't. It was a historical exception. Because while land lost its dominance, ownership never lost its power. It simply learned to wear different clothes. Factories became corporations. Property became financial instruments. Infrastructure became balance sheets. And quietly, without announcements, without villains, without a single declaration, ownership began to reconcentrate. Not through conquest, through markets. By the late 1970s, the logic had shifted again. Capital became mobile, assets appreciated faster than wages, finance outpaced production. And access to the things that mattered most, housing, education, healthcare, energy, increasingly required ongoing payment instead of ownership. The old obligations returned. Not fealty, debt. Not servitude, subscription. Not land tenure, permanent rent. The language softened, the structure didn't. Now here's where I want you to pause, because this is the part I sat with for a long time before I understood it. What replaced feudal obligation wasn't freedom, it was conditional access. You can live anywhere, as long as you can pay. You can move freely, as long as your credit allows it. You can participate, as long as you stay solvent. And unlike medieval peasants, modern participants were told this was empowerment. Choice, after all, feels like freedom, even when the options converge. But here's the question I kept returning to. What actually defines feudalism? Not cruelty, not chains, not uniforms or titles. Feudalism is defined by dependency without ownership. And dependency doesn't require castles. It only requires that the assets essential to life are owned by someone else. The medieval serf depended on land he didn't own. The modern worker depends on housing, infrastructure, platforms, and financial systems he doesn't own. Different tools, same logic. And just like feudalism, the system doesn't need to be malicious to be stable. It only needs to be accepted. Most people didn't rebel against feudalism because it was unjust. They endured it because alternatives were scarce. That's the part worth paying close attention to. Because when people feel trapped today, it's rarely because of laws. It's because of prices, because leverage has shifted, because access has become conditional again. Not by decree, by design drift. And this didn't arrive overnight. It didn't announce itself. It evolved quietly as ownership concentrated, risk transferred downward, and stability was prioritized over mobility. Once ownership began to reconcentrate, the system didn't proclaim a return to hierarchy. It didn't need to. Hierarchies don't reemerge through declarations. They reemerge through prices. The shift accelerated when finance stopped serving the real economy and began reorganizing it. Housing wasn't just shelter anymore. It was a store of value. Infrastructure wasn't just public necessity. It was an investment vehicle. Education wasn't just preparation. It was leverage, financed up front, repaid over decades. And with each transformation, ownership moved further from those who depended on it. In a feudal economy, wealth came from controlling land. In a financialized economy, wealth comes from controlling assets that appreciate faster than labor. The principle is identical, only the instruments changed. Those who own appreciating assets accumulate leverage automatically. Those who rely on wages fall behind, even when they do everything right. Productivity rises, but ownership captures the gains. Debt fills the gap, not as a failure, as a feature. When wages can't keep up with asset prices, credit becomes the bridge between income and survival. Mortgages replace land tenure. Student loans replace apprenticeship. Consumer credit replaces savings. Each obligation framed as opportunity. Each payment sold as progress. But that does something subtle, something worth sitting with. It locks future labor into past prices. A medieval peasant owed labor to land he didn't own. A modern worker owes labor to obligations he already signed. Different vocabulary, same gravity. This is why mobility feels harder now. Not legally restricted, economically constrained. You can move cities, change jobs, reinvent yourself. But the cost of restarting rises every year. Miss a payment, and the system reminds you who controls access. At this point, I know what some of you are thinking. This comparison goes too far. Modern life is nothing like feudalism. No one is forced to stay. Opportunity still exists. And you're right. Feudalism 2.0 isn't about chains. It's about dependence. The medieval serf couldn't leave because survival depended on land. The modern participant can leave, but only by abandoning access. Access to housing, access to credit, access to healthcare, access to stability. That's not coercion, it's conditioning. And the system works precisely because it doesn't feel oppressive. It feels normal. People don't revolt against rent increases. They adjust their budgets. They don't challenge asset inflation. They chase returns. They don't question ownership concentration. They blame themselves. This is the quiet genius of modern hierarchy. It doesn't demand obedience. It incentivizes compliance. And when instability appears, when inflation surges, when bubbles burst, when crises hit, the system responds exactly as it was trained to. It protects the assets first. Liquidity flows upward. Losses are socialized. Stability is restored temporarily by reinforcing the same structures that created the imbalance. Every intervention teaches the same lesson. Ownership is protected. Dependence is managed. This is not a moral judgment. It's an observation. And once you see it, modern economic anxiety suddenly makes sense. People aren't anxious because they're irrational. They're anxious because leverage has shifted against them. They feel productive but precarious, employed but exposed, free but dependent. They sense, intuitively, without the vocabulary to name it, that effort no longer guarantees security. That security increasingly requires ownership they can't reach. That's not a cultural failure. That's a structural one. Feudalism didn't collapse because people recognized it as unjust. It collapsed when alternative systems redistributed ownership enough to make dependence unnecessary. And here's the uncomfortable implication. If ownership keeps concentrating, dependency doesn't need to be enforced. It returns automatically, not through violence, through balance sheets. So the question isn't whether this system is fair. Systems don't care about fairness. They respond to incentives. The real question is whether a society can remain stable when most people participate permanently but own temporarily, when they carry the risk but not the upside, when they rent stability instead of building it. Because stability without mobility eventually becomes stagnation, and stagnation, historically, is what systems fear most. This doesn't mean collapse is inevitable. It means awareness is necessary. Understanding Feudalism 2.0 isn't about despair, it's about clarity. Recognizing that modern freedom isn't binary. It exists on a spectrum shaped by ownership, leverage, and access. And the closer you are to ownership, the more resilient you become. Not because you're smarter, because the system is built to protect you. That's the truth history keeps repeating. Power doesn't disappear, it reorganizes. Economic systems don't die, they evolve, carrying their old logic into new forms. Feudalism didn't end when the castles fell. It ended when ownership widened, and it returned when ownership narrowed again. Different century, same mechanism. If this gave you a new lens for what you're living through, not despair, just clarity, then subscribe, because next time we go deeper.